Good evening and welcome to the November 18th meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Flossmoor. Just a couple of reminders before we start. This meeting is being streamed via Zoom for the convenience of those who are unable to make it in person. When it's time to have public comments, I'm going to be calling people from the public comment sign-in sheet. We ask that you please abide by our public comment policy, which includes introducing yourself, with your name and address, addressing the board with the quorum, also directing your comments to the public body at large and not a single member of staff, and then limiting your comments to 5 minutes per person for a total of 30 minutes of public comment time. The time is 7:32. Clerk Gavel, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Bradley Scott. Present. Trustee Daggett.
Here.
Trustee Driscoll.
Here.
Trustee Lofton.
Here.
Trustee Mitros.
Here.
Trustee Mustafa.
Here.
Mayor Nelson.
Present. Thank you so much. We have a quorum. Before we get started, I would like to invite Mr. Carl Estelle, our Director of Police Operations, forward to give an update on the recent rash of car burglaries and thefts. Thank you and welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees, and members of the Flossmoor community. Thanks for having me. I'd like to just talk about something that occurred over a week ago. And what happened was on the 12th, I started with the 12th, but I want to talk about the 9th through the 13th. On the 12th, we sent out an e-cop alert, basically letting everybody know about the streak of burglaries we had. We had stolen vehicles, we had thefts from vehicles, and a lot of them within that 3 or 4 day period. So we sent out an alert to everybody, really to remind everybody of things such as lock your cars, stop leaving your valuables in plain sight. So we issued about 4 things on that e-cop alert. I just want to walk you through what happened so you can understand it. So on the night of the 9th, we had 2 stolen vehicles. And I want to talk about that briefly. I'll be real brief. But we had 2 stolen vehicles from the same house. One was in the driveway, one was right outside on the curb. But the individual left his car unlocked, both of them. The individual also thought that he had a hiding place within the vehicle to keep his keys so that nobody would be able to find him. Well, the bad folks found him. The people who did bad things found him. And both the cars were stolen. The night of the 11th, we had a dozen vehicle thefts from vehicles. A dozen of them. Okay? All throughout the city. The night of the 13th, we had 3. The night of the 14th, we had none. So what happened was, I'll be brief, there's one vehicle that we know was identified, a stolen vehicle out of the city of Homewood. This vehicle was seen in Hazelcrest, Chicago Heights, Flossmoor, pictures of individuals taken holding guns outside the vehicle. This vehicle was a stolen vehicle and it was recovered in Chicago Heights on the 13th. Inside that vehicle was some evidence from some of our crimes. We had a tag unit out there on the 13th and they spotted this vehicle. They didn't give chase. This vehicle drove at a very high rate of speed late at night and driving so fast and recklessly that our two-person tag unit decided not to stop that vehicle because it was too dangerous because of the rate of speed that this car was traveling through the street. But like I said, this vehicle, even though no one was arrested, the vehicle was recovered that same evening on the 13th. But what we're trying to say is we can't continue as a community or as a people to leave our doors unlocked for our cars, our valuables in plain sight. We can't continue to leave our keys inside our vehicles thinking that nobody's going to find them. And so some of this is we have friends, we have neighbors, and we just remind each other of certain things that we shouldn't do and shouldn't be doing, because us out there as police officers, we can only do so much, so we really count on you all to see something and say something. And not only see something and say something to the police officers, but see something and say something to your neighbors, friends, and relatives too, who you all know. Come on, Carl, stop leaving your packages in there. I drove by your car, I walked by your car when I was jogging and things like that. So that's really it. I don't know if y'all have any questions, but I really wanted to explain what happened over that 4-day period.
Thank you so much. I'll turn it over to the board for any questions that you might have on this yourself.
start. Mr. Estelle, is there any evidence that there may be the same team or person or individuals that are causing these appointments?
We know that stolen vehicle had several people in it. We know they committed some crimes. We know they committed some crimes here in our city because some of the evidence from our crimes were recovered from that vehicle once it was located in Chicago Heights. Any more, we don't know.
I've lived in 4 houses in Flossmoor, and only one was, that I have no car broken into. And one on Heather, they smashed a window because someone foolishly left a purse in the car. And they took the cover from, I don't know, the CD box or whatever, and smashed it. A couple radios stolen out of another car. And I left the door open because I didn't want them. They broke in the first time, and I left it open the second time, and they don't steal radios anymore. But just recently, I talked to Keith a couple months ago, and foolishly I left my car open, and, you know, I think this was more than kids, but people driving around looking for cars, they go up and, you know, if it's open, they'll see what's in there, and they took out some stuff. But crime happens in every city, and it's unfortunate, but it's hard to, you know, catch these people too. So it's unfortunate it had to happen this time, but, you know, it happens, and it's sad.
Thank you for the report. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for bringing us up to date, and also a huge thanks to Flossmoor Police Department. My understanding is a lot of extra hours, a lot of intense work, a lot of hectic work, and so I would just want to acknowledge that and thank you. I trust that everyone here is grateful for the work that is done by the Flossmoor Police Department. But I just wanted to ask a couple questions for understanding. When you say tactical unit, can you say what that is and how many officers?
What we have for our tactical unit for that night, we had 2 people working together in one car. Quite often, we may put them in a semi-marked car, but this time we had them in a full marked, regular Flossmoor Police Department car. So the tactical unit, they're there to respond to anything in progress, try to deter any crimes and things like that in the high, not that we have a high crime area, but we know where some of the burglaries and the vehicles are occurring. So they will frequent those areas. They will occasionally help out on calls for service, but they're not a primary unit unless the folks who are regularly working are swamped. And then they may volunteer for some calls, and they're usually not dispatched to be a primary unit.
So in the case of 2 in that one car, those are in addition to the 2 that are usually on shift? So that would have been 4 officers?
Well, the night of the 13th, yes, but also the 5th one, sorry.
Okay. And I'm also referring, because we got a management report from our village manager who mentioned 2 tactical units for the midnight shift and increased patrols throughout the village. So my ignorance, are the increased patrols 2 officers in a car, or is that different?
That's not only the 2 officers in the car, but the patrolmen who are regularly working in between their calls, we make sure that they increase the neighborhood and neighborhood checks and things like that. So they increased it as well.
Okay, so is it correct to assume that there's significant overtime that's required right now during this rash of burglaries and break-ins to cars?
We will work more overtime because that is one way we will respond. So yes.
And is the overtime an entire extra shift? Would it be 16 hours, or would it be 2 more hours or 4 more hours?
In this case, overtime was 11:30 to 2:30, so that was a 4-hour shift. Because quite often the people who are working overtime, they have to come back and work their own shift. I actually help pick up a shift. So everybody doesn't volunteer for overtime. We have about 5 or 6 officers who regularly do it. So, and they will be the same ones who have to come back and pick up another shift the following day or 2 days back. But it was a 4-hour shift.
And you're going right into my next question. I was going to ask if they come back after after their shift and start their regular shift? How many hours would there be between the overtime shift and their regular shift?
And in that incident, they got off at 2:30 and started at 7:30, so they had 5 hours.
So we have officers who probably didn't get more than an hour or two of sleep.
We have officers sometimes who work a back-to-back shift.
Does that happen? How often does that happen, sir?
It happened one time last week. I can look it up if you want to go back further, but it happened one time last week.
So with my thank you to the police for all their work, I also am expressing concern that when we have officers working that kind of a demanding schedule, we know that over time that would happen often or regularly. That puts a stress on our police department and our officers. So are there things being done right now so we don't have the same officers doing that repeatedly?
Not much. We have a core group, and first of all, we won't put any 2 officers in that tactical unit. We have certain officers who receive some additional training, so everybody won't be asked to work that tactical unit. Now, we will ask anybody to help out pick up a vacant shift.
Okay, so am I hearing correctly that repeatedly the same officers are doing back-to-back shifts?
No, not all the time. You asked about that, and I said that did occur one time last week. So,
And I apologize if I'm asking it a different way, but I just want to be very clear.
No problem, my answer will still be the same.
Okay.
No, but like I said, it did occur one time last week where one officer did work a back-to-back shift.
Okay. And again, my question is, what intentionally is being done so the same officers are not doing that?
We do all that we can with our scheduling, our commander does, but by the time, Acting Chief Taylor and I, by the time we receive it, we just have to trust that the commander has used his best judgment to know when and when not to have a person or keep track of their hours to make sure they're not working too many hours.
But you personally don't have any concerns about the safety when an officer is stressed or working those kind of hours?
Oh, I definitely have a concern. Yes, if we had more officers to pull from the pool, maybe we wouldn't have to cross that bridge as often, but it's definitely a concern.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for your report. I just wanted to know about the types of instances where there may be an offense to the public. Someone reported that they walked up on someone breaking into the car in the parking lot, in the south lot. And so I am curious to know if that was part of the numbers in your report from the break-ins and thefts.
I have to look at it, I'm not sure.
Okay. The reason for my question is about I think we, as a society, unfortunately, have become familiar with people who are leaving their car doors unlocked and the potential threat to their valuables being taken. I would say that the break-ins where glass is being disturbed and forceful break-in, I don't think that happens too much or it isn't reported too much. So if you are able to speak to the instances where that is happening, opposed to someone just leaving the door unlocked and their valuables being taken.
I would have to look at those numbers, but I'm pretty sure that at least had 3 incidents where they smashed the glass.
I wanted to add that we did recover some blood evidence from a couple of these forcible entries to the vehicles. So that will be analyzed by a crime lab. It'll probably take several months, but we're hoping that the DNA profile will be gathered from that, and that information from that profile is already in the system, and we'll have a suspect that will pursue charges.
So we know we had several where they smashed the glass.
And so for the report for the public in terms of how to handle the situation in the event that you see someone breaking into a car or you are coming in contact with an offender, since it seems like the instances are on an uptick, what would you provide the public in appropriate mechanism to take for their own safety.
I would ask, please don't take any matters in your own hands and call 911 immediately. And along with that, try not to travel solo by yourself, try to travel in pairs, try to shop in pairs and things like that. But definitely don't take matters into your own hands and please call 911 and we will be there very soon to take care of it.
And they did put out an e-cop with instructions to further measures that people can take. That was put out last week.
Sure. Yep, I saw that e-cop, but I didn't see anything that addressed anything when an offender, you come face to face with an offender. So I wanted to make sure we underscored the fact that we should not, be a hero when those types of things happen. Thank you for that. Thank you for the report.
I had a couple questions, if you don't mind, Carl. Sorry. First off, thanks for the report, and with the e-cop, I also reposted that into our neighborhood, a couple others, so some of my neighbors were like, oh, we did get the doors locked up, because they did get our neighborhood the very next night, we did put that out, so it was very timely for us to get that information. It's really unfortunate and sad that we just live in a time where we have to take these measures, like you have to think twice. I do it all the time. It's 1 in the morning, I'm like, I lock my car, and then I go lock my car. I do it through the garage, with my remote, but anyways. So one of the things is, questions I had was, and this may be for Bridget as well, at one point we had a conversation about ring cameras and the police department's access to them. I'm getting a new camera with floods and night vision and all that to put over my driveway. I've got one from the back door and I'm going to get one from the driveway. Is there instructions or a process or information that we can share with the public on how to quickly get you guys that information when someone, because when I'm sitting there, my phone goes off and I see a white sedan going into my car, so I'm not going to go out, but I want to get that to you as quick as possible. Is there a fast, easy way to share that video with you?
One of the best ways is just to call down to the police department and they will get that information to a detective or an officer on duty to try to get that as soon as possible.
Okay. All right. So just a follow up to Trustee Mustafa's question. So the overtime issues that we face in our department, is that pretty commonplace across departments just with the level of staffing and when incidents like these come up? Is that something that's fairly commonplace that many departments have to deal with on a regular basis?
Yes, many departments, not just ours.
Okay. And the officers that are in those situations, is this pretty routine for them in their job, or is this something that's out of the ordinary for them?
It's very routine.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Can I just piggyback off of what Trustee Daggett mentioned? One of the things that we talked about as a board, as he mentioned, was the ring cameras and so forth. And I heard you say that we can just send it to the department. Is that something that the department is looking to do to identify all of the homes that do have those security cameras, so that it can be, you can identify the houses that are aligned with security systems, so you can make a quicker inquiry in terms of access?
If I stated that, I may have missed the point. Do not send it to the department. We're not capable of, we don't have a system yet prepared to take all that kind of video. And so if I stated that, I was wrong, but I believe what I should have said, if I did, is call 911 and we will have either an officer or detective to come out and get a copy of that from you. If we start talking about ring doorbells and monitoring that, that's a whole different system that we're going to have to prepare for. Because what we wouldn't want is for the public to think that, well, everything is secure because the police department is now monitoring my ring doorbell on my property. So that would be something we would have to work out together and create something to do that.
Sure, absolutely. And I took it that way. I guess I was asking if that was something that we should be thinking about in terms of how to do it, so that you all have the information you need to make it informed.
I know we had a brief conversation about it, and that may be something that we should follow up and have an additional conversation about.
And I know that I believe that the ring access to those cameras has been disabled for the police to have an immediate feed, but there are services that are out there where we can transport that information to the police department when something happens.
Mr. Bowden, did you have a?
That's exactly what I was going to, that's exactly what service that you set. That as of January 24th of last year, that service that you used to be able to, police department used to be able to contact you for that video went away. That went away. So now it would be the contacting the police and getting that video somehow, whether it be downloading it on a flash drive, us providing a flash drive, something along those lines. If that already touches our officers, or used to do a case like that. It used to be a service where police department could just, if you had a ring camera, go, hey, we're going to request that video. That doesn't exist anymore.
No questions, thank you, Director, for your report.
Before you sit down, how many openings are in our police department right now for officers? Three. All right, so if you have any friends or family or neighbors who are interested in serving, I know some really great people that can serve with. So thank you so much. Next, I've got a proclamation declaring November as National Diabetes Month, and I want to invite Oliver Calderon to join me right up here on the steps, and bring Sullivan and your mom and your dad and Emmett too, and your grandma. November is Diabetes Awareness Month, and a year ago yesterday, Oliver was diagnosed with juvenile diabetes, and it is really impressive. You are very brave to have gone through what you've gone through and be here to be an example to everybody else who is going through this. So thank you so much for being here. I'm going to read this, and then I've got a couple of questions for you, but I think they're pretty easy, okay? This is a proclamation declaring November as National Diabetes Month. Whereas diabetes is a serious condition and a leading cause of death by disease that has reached epidemic proportions. And whereas more than 34 million American adults are living with diabetes, and an estimated 88 million more may be at risk of developing the disease. And whereas during National Diabetes Month, we draw awareness to all forms of this dangerous condition, including type 1, type 2, gestational diabetes, and prediabetes. And whereas diabetes is a serious condition that can lead to blindness, heart attack, stroke, kidney failure, amputations, and other serious health problems. And whereas diabetes affects people from all walks of life, young and old alike, with minority populations in the United States having an increased risk for developing the disease. And whereas early detection and proper treatment of diabetes can lead to a longer, healthier life. And now therefore I, Michelle I. Nelson, Mayor of Flossmoor, do hereby proclaim November 2024 as National Diabetes Month here in the village of Flossmoor. And I call upon all residents, to school systems, government agencies, nonprofit organizations, healthcare providers, research institutions, and other interested groups to join in activities that raise diabetes awareness and help prevent, treat, and manage the disease. Thank you. So Oliver and his friends are organizing a fundraiser for diabetes awareness and support. Can you tell everybody what that fundraiser is?
Willy Wonka show.
And it's a show in your backyard, right? You're selling tickets, and there's going to be treats and whatnot. Hi, Sullivan. And then, how much are tickets?
$2.
And who's directing this performance?
Me.
And who's starring in the performance?
Me and my friends.
I think it's absolutely wonderful that you're doing this at such a young age. And I know this is not your first production. You've done other productions in the backyard too. But we're really proud of you, and we're going to bring blankets and bundle up because it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah. But anyway, you are a warrior, and thank you for being here to set an example for everybody. We appreciate you. And we're wearing blue. Blue is the color of Diabetes Month. All right.
Hey Oliver, you got come back over here. I'll-
It's going to break your teeth when we leave the company then. Thank you. Oh, I can't take it.
Killing it, Oliver.
Yeah, right.
Well, Oliver rakes in the dough.
Killing it, Oliver.
Options over here too.
Oh, thank you so much.
Back up here, Oliver.
The rest of us are not cash here.
We'll tell you later. Thank you, Calderon family. Next up, I've got the citizens present wishing to address the board. First up, I have Miss Andrea Perry. Welcome.
Good evening, Andrew Perry making a public comment as a 37-year constituent of Flossmoor. I am commenting today on my First Amendment right to express my concerns about what the leadership and management of Flossmoor is doing and how they are doing it. The American Civil Liberties Washington article, Know Your Rights regarding public comments and other speech at local government meetings states, it is unconstitutional for a governing body to restrict a member of the public from speaking because it disagrees with their specific viewpoint. Similarly, it can be unconstitutional to limit a person's participation in public comment because of their membership in a certain group. Ultimately, courts will consider whether the local government's decision to hear comments of one speaker while excluding those of another are related to their specific viewpoints. If the basis for excluding a person is their viewpoint, then such restriction is not neutral and is likely unconstitutional. On the other hand, restrictions on the timing, location, or manner of speech are much more likely to be constitutional. On October 7th, my First Amendment right was challenged by the board by the actions of the village attorney. For those of you on the board that may not have been informed, I filed with the Attorney General's office a request for review of the actions taken by the board on October 7th, claiming that my public comment was in violation to the Open Meetings Act due to political campaigning. Case reference 2024 PAC 83560. I also want to inform the board of my shock, dismay, and disappointment over the board's response to this request for review. The board, in their response, characterized my public comments as the badgering of a public official making unfounded accusations. The absurd and unfounded accusations of Ms. Perry have the sole purpose of advocating on the behalf of her chosen candidate. These characterizations reveal to me that the mayor and other board members just don't get it. It takes me back to my viewing of the March 14th Broomfield and Hallfield board meeting of Jarrell Jerome supporters. In that meeting, the board heard many reputable, credible, and astounding community members speaking on behalf of Jarrell Jones, who presented valid, substantive justification not to terminate, but the mayor and other board members still did not get it and acted otherwise. It takes me back to two public comments made that night. The first was by Richard Taylor, coach at IJP. He said, "I hope that you are listening to us. and not just hearing what we are telling you. Because there's a difference. Because if you are just hearing us to hear us, then what are we here for? The second comment was made by Sugar Alamy, Rich Township clerk and Flossmoor resident. She said, being a public servant, we have to self-check ourselves and make sure that our leadership represents all the demographics that are represented in our great community of Flossmoor. The village of Flossmoor needs a village board that listens to understand with compassion, sensitivity, and concern for all Flossmoor constituents, not just a selective portion, in order to be the public servants they pledge to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Dr. LaShawn, please. Welcome.
Thank you. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a Flossmoor resident. My name is Dr. LaShawn Treese. I just came to put on record that back in June of this year, I reported to Flossmoor Police Department that I was being stalked, cyber stalked and stalked. To my dismay, I had to come back here at least 7 times since June. I have not received a return phone call. I did reach out to the mayor after I noticed that my calls were going unanswered. When I left here on June 25th, I went the next day to Markham Courthouse and I found an order of protection against this individual. I had the person's name, I had their information, and I also had the corresponding documents that was given to me by the court. That order is still valid to this day. 4 months have gone by. The only communication that I have had with anybody helping me has been me contacting people here. I've gone to 4 other municipalities where I know this individual to be because I have to provide an address to the court so she can be served. All I asked was that the investigator here, as well as the police officers that I've met with, do their job. No one has reached out to help me. The first time I just got an update was when I was sitting in the seat just now and Chief Taylor just came up to me and said, it's shocking that I see you here. I was looking for you. But I have been corresponding all this time, and I want to put this on the record because the 3rd time I came here and met with a different officer, I went back to the Cook County State's Attorney's office. They told me that it is my municipality's job to investigate that information and to get the information that they need. Instead, I went to 4 other municipalities, and all of those individuals did whatever they could to help me because they could not understand why they had not been contacted by anyone from the Flossmoor Police Department. So I'm putting this on record because I believe that this is done intentionally. I believe that my rights are not being acknowledged, and I believe that my personal safety is at risk. This individual is very dangerous, and I've stressed this to all of these officers that I met with, and like I said, I have not gotten 1 phone call. And I waited all this time to come to this board meeting because I just wanted to see how long it was going to take for anyone to look like they were trying to help me. And it's really sad that all of this other stuff is going on and people can't take matters like this serious. Well, it's serious for me. I'm a mother, I have children, I have neighbors, and I almost feel compelled to walk around my community and pass this individual's picture around so that I can make sure that other people don't get harmed in this process. So I just want you all to hear this on the record so no one can say that I did not ever come to the board because I've already spoken to the mayor. And I'm now putting this on record for a reason. So I really want you all to take heed that this police department is not helping me at all. And I've lived here for 19 years, and this is just sad. We pay way too much taxes to receive this type of treatment. And I don't care what they disagree with about anything that I've ever contested here in this board meeting. Right now, I need the service that I'm paying for. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Treese. I'm sorry, after Chief Taylor, did you have something you wanted to say? Follow up with?
Dr. Sean Patrice and I have spoken on many occasions. Sergeant Worker has responded to her, as well as Officer Levy. And Dr. Patrice came to our department maybe 3 weeks to a month ago, and we spent time talking in the lobby about our response. I provided her some tips, safety tips for her home. Talked about cameras and other measures as well. So I'm surprised to hear that this is how she feels. I take very seriously the things that come into our department. We treat every person who comes to complain about the incident very seriously, and we investigate what we can. If charges are found, we pursue those. So I'll be happy to talk to Dr. Patrice again, or anybody else who has issues, but I do not, I cannot sit idly by and allow someone to falsely criticize the efforts of our officers in terms of responding to her. We don't need to argue about it, but I'm glad to talk to Dr. Patrice. And I did provide her with an update. I just so happened to look at this case prior to coming down here. We had no contact today, but just because I knew we needed to follow up, I checked that order of protection, which expires tomorrow. I mentioned that to her today. I saw it, didn't know she was coming. And she mentioned some court procedures that she'll be attending, I think, tomorrow. So that is not true. There could be misunderstandings, and I can understand that this is categorical.
Thank you so much. Dr. Latrice, would you please follow up with Acting Chief Taylor tomorrow? Thank you so much, and I'm really sorry you're going through this. Next, I have Mr. Tom Reese. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. So I'm here, obviously, supporting my friend, Dr. LaShawn. And just in general to talk about accountability for like the third or fourth time. But it's real. Like when there's police neglect in the Southland, and national and international news and opinions, it gets a lot more coverage than a lot of other parts of Chicagoland, and it's not for no reason, right? Like it gets coverage because when it comes to police neglecting their communities, the Southland sticks out like a sore thumb. When the UN Human Rights Council came to Chicago, one of the reasons why they came is to investigate the south and southwest suburbs specifically. Not only for Alexis Wilson, but also for Madeline Miller and for Jamel Roberson. And in Oakland, another story that gets international news is the fact that Murad Kirby, on June 5th of last year, was killed in a drunk driving accident that was committed by one Leanne Cusack, where the police officer, after Leanne refused her breathalyzer test, didn't force a blood draw. And then afterwards, the police officer admitted that he could smell booze on her breath. So this is, and that got international news because the community of Old Pawn has showed up to every single police and fire board meeting since then. This is a really good opportunity for Flossmoor, I think, to really crack down on community safety. You know, I heard you were having a conversation about car robberies. I think something that's huge is when somebody, especially a woman, comes to a police department asking for an order of protection. That's not something to delay. That's not a joke. Whenever people talk to you about violence being committed against you, the first thing they say is, oh, you need to go to the police department and get an order of protection right now. But then, when somebody like me who's experienced violence didn't bother to do anything about it because I know how the lemon dance goes, like, she's been at it since June. That order of protection should have been put in place by like early July at the latest. It's now November. Like, that's not a joke. Somebody's stalking her. Like, has pictures of her online that's cyber stalking. In a lot of ways, that's even worse. sometimes that turns into a serial killer. You know, that's not a joke. That's not something to delay. Oh, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Racy. And for clarification, Acting Chief Taylor, did you say that the order of protection is in place until tomorrow?
Yes, and
And the police don't issue this?
that's correct. Those are issued by a judge. We can take a report, we give the complainant information on how to obtain an order of protection. We don't issue those orders of protection, and they're not enforceable until they've been served. We tried to make contact specifically with the young lady that Dr. Latrice is referring to, but she has not responded to our attempts to locate her. Once that order of protection is entered into the system, any police officer that will come into contact with her that identifies her and then serve that OOP, and now it is enforced if that person violates the terms of it.
Thank you so much. Next up I have Rabbi Yosef. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Rabbi Michael Reynosa, human rights activist in Chicago. I'm also the chairperson of the Push a 5 campaign that's bringing about accountability to kill cops that murder our people in our state. This evening I'm being asked to attend this meeting here in Flossmoor again, based off of previous issues here. Once I'm here again to address another situation. As we heard, the murder of Madam Miller was here in Flossmoor Police Department. I had attended to that meeting. Unacceptable behaviors in Flossmoor High School, I was here for that. The unjust removal of Black Chief by his body here in Homewood-Flossmoor, I was here for that. But now today I'm here to stand by my comrade, Dr. Latrice Devine, who is being stalked by someone that is still in the streets. If Ms. Devine was a white woman, I beg to differ, there would be a sense of urgency to bring about whatever change that needed to be done. But that's not the case. She's a black woman, and nothing's being done. What will it take for you to respond to this situation? Does it have to go to where it's a stream of someone losing a life, or a home being destroyed? What will it take for you to respond? I see you all sitting here as members of the city, doing nothing about these situations. And it absolutely disturbs me to know that you all getting paid to do absolutely nothing. Having said that, we need this body to treat this situation with the same level of a sense of urgency to address the issues that Ms. Devine has explained tonight. I mean, but if you were being stalked, you would have done everything possible to take her family. And she's doing the same thing without the help of this police chief who just spoke. If there was an order of protection, it should have been done by now, without delay. You can do your job if you want to, but you're not doing your job. And for that, that's why I'm here to stand with this family and my comrade to ensure that her safety is met with the most and the quickest outcome. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Next up, I have Ms. Barbara Carstrom. Welcome.
Good evening. Barbara Carstrom, Flossmoor resident. So I have a few issues that I wanted to address things I want clarification on is who are we supposed to be reaching out to for clarification? So, yes, you can pass it around. There is garbage accumulating in the detention basin next to the school. And I don't know who's supposed to be, do I reach out to Public Works, do I reach out to the school?
This is Public Works.
Okay.
Don over there is really helpful. You probably know Don.
Okay, perfect. So that's good to know. And then the other issue I have is, I know this year we only paid 1.5 of our 41 miles of roadway. And I just want to share some pictures of what my subdivision, what Heatherville looks like. Because this is before the winter, before the salts, before the snow plows, before there's potholes. It's everywhere. It's horrible, and I know we're in a tight budget, but I know the bond money was meant for infrastructure and road repairs, and this was part of it. So it's my understanding that the new software that we're paying $70,000 a year for, we're supposed to prioritize things that need to be repaired. Is that right?
Sidewalk inventory, I think you're talking about.
Okay, so when we have instances of potholes or growing situations in our neighborhood, who do we give that information to? Do we want to send a picture? Do you want us to send a picture, give the location?
Yeah, so as I'm running and walking through the neighborhoods, that's what I do. I send them to Dawn.
To Dawn, okay.
I take a photo and say, Dawn, make sure this is on the list. If the deviation's too much or if this pothole needs to be addressed, Dawn is kind of the receptacle, if you will, for that information.
Okay.
And yet, according to, I think it was a 2018 report, there's about $18 million worth of road repairs that needed to be made. So when I came on, I asked that we start catching up on these things by implementing a crack sealing program, which extends the life of our roads for 7 years, buys us a little bit of time for pennies on the dollar. So we implemented that, and yes, part of that bond money is also going to go to roads. We need to finish getting the bids for the rest of the project, so we know how much is left over, and we can dump it back into roads, which I'm very excited about.
So is that going to be a big part of next year's budget, is the road repair?
There will be a road repair project, though probably the bigger project will probably be 2026, I'm guessing, the summer of 2026.
Okay, so 2 more years really until what?
There'll be a smaller project next year. It costs about $500,000 to do a mile of road.
Oh, I understand.
So,
Okay, thank you.
thank you so much, Ms. Freshman.
Mayor, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm not sure. Are we still doing, and maybe this is for Public Works, are we still in the process of doing our hot patches? Is that an ongoing thing?
Mr. Milovich, that should be close to complete.
Yeah, I think we were referring to pothole patching specifically, and that's something that we do throughout the entire summer season. We still have a little bit that we're doing. Obviously, as the year goes on, those patches sometimes stick and sometimes don't. So it's sort of a continuous process. But we are currently doing it. We were recently, as recently as last week, we're still out locations. So we'll certainly keep in mind the issue as well.
What temperature does it have to be above to be able to effectively do those patches about 60 degrees?
Or so, as long as that plant is open, we'll be out there doing work. So we're trying to squeeze in some last minute stuff, but we're doing as much as we can.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to move on to a consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Thank you so much. Are there any items that anybody would like to hold up?
Yes. 2, 3, 4, and 10.
Anything else?
Number 8, please.
Anything else? All right, can I get a motion to approve consent agenda items number 1, 5, 6, 7, 9, and 11?
So moved. Second.
Thank you so much. Clerk Legaro, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Brenda Scott?
Yes.
Trustee Daggett?
Yes.
Trustee Driscoll?
Yes.
Trustee Lofton?
Yes.
Trustee Mitros?
Yes.
Trustee Mustafa?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. Can I get a motion to approve the bills for approval and payment as approved by the Finance Committee dated November 18th, 2024?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you so much. Trustee Mustafa, since this is your item, I'll let you start your question.
Okay. Just to let my colleagues know on the board, I am doing the bills, so you know when it's your turn coming up. You'll be passing around soon. Page 4 of 23 regarding Baxter and Woodman. Because I was reviewing the invoices, my questions came to light, and 2 or 3 of my questions I will wait until we move to the other consent agenda items. Regarding Baxter and Woodman, I'm curious as to whether on page 4 of 23, when we look at the 10 line items, there are large amounts of 18,000, almost 19,000, almost 20,000, 15,000, and a couple that are around 1,000, but there are some that are smaller. So I'm wondering if we're looking closely at what Baxter and Woodman is doing to continue to look for ways to enlist the services of other engineering firms. I know that on a past RFP, we were not able to accept the bids from 1 or 2 other firms because they didn't have the experience we were looking for. But in order to establish a relationship, is there a way that we could take some of the smaller projects and give them to a firm so that we can build a relationship to see if they could do more for us in the future? Minority firms, women-owned firms, for example.
I can address this question, and then our attorney may want to weigh in as well. So out of the items that are in this claims list for Baxter and Woodman, taking a look at a few of them, they have been contracts that have been approved by this board. And just a reminder that the spending authority is up to $25,000 before board approval. We did recently go through an RFP process for engineering services, and that is the statutory process by which to select new engineers. We do have a handful of engineering firms that we work with currently, Baxter and Woodman, Christopher Burke, Strand and Associates, Millhouse Engineering. And we recently went through a process in hopes of adding an additional firm for our central business system project. And I think that's the specific process that you're referring to, Trustee. Unfortunately, we weren't in a position to add a new firm. We had the type of experience that we were looking for with that particular project. But in order to add a new firm, into our work, that process would require going through an RFQ, interviewing those firms for their qualifications for the type of work, and then negotiating contracts with them for particular projects. So that's the process by which we would need to go through. And again, the attorney may wish to weigh in on that.
And all of these projects, they are already in process. They're things that they've been working on for some time. Do you have a question about a specific bill, or was that just a general?
No, it's a general question, and I understand. Thank you for reviewing the process. It's always helpful to hear it again. My question is more, as time goes on and we see the process and we see the projects unfold, even though they've been approved already and you can't backtrack, we can continue to look at the project and say, okay, in the future, this type of project is one, it's under the threshold, the staff could decide it's a type of project that might be able, another firm may be able to handle. And I understand it's increasingly difficult if you have many engineering firms to work with. That adds to the complexity of the work you do. I'm just bringing this up to encourage us to keep this process going, that we're looking at ways to share. Okay. Still regarding Baxter and Woodman, so if you notice on page 4 of 23, there are 10 line items, and they all have unique invoice numbers, and they all have unique general ledger numbers. Well, there are a couple that repeat. However, there's no project number at all on any of these. When you look at the invoice, you'll see the project number. So when you look at utility billing data analysis water meter project, you really don't know what project that is unless you have the invoice in your hand. Is there a way that the village is accumulating all of the services for a particular project? Because you cannot go to the invoices and do that. And you can't go to the general ledger list and do that. You have to actually have the invoices to do that. So how is that done?
So we try to enter in as descriptive as a description as possible. For example, the one that you referenced actually specifically says the water meter project. This is also why we request from the engineers and separate tracking for each particular project, which is why this is not one invoice for all 10 projects. So within that detailing, billing detail, at the end of that, the engineers run a what they call a billing approved contract amount, what's been billed to date, and what's remaining on that contract. And then the department staff and myself are monitoring that and making sure that we're staying within what's been approved.
So I'm sure you're doing everything you can, but I encourage you to use the project numbers, because if you notice, you'll see, for example, viaduct basin engineering. You'll also see Heather Hill detention basin construction observation services. So description is not completely definitive. You also see lines like Latimer Road or lead service line replacement plan. I would not want us to rely on the description. It's just not consistent enough. So if we can, Jonathan, would, from a systems perspective, understand the importance of a unique numerical identifier. So that's my question. Can we incorporate that?
I could chime in here. So BSNA does have a project line that we could add. I'm not sure how it would incorporate into this report. I would have to look at it and get back to you.
Well, I'm not suggesting that it display, and I'm just suggesting that it be in your total record.
Okay.
So if it doesn't display, that's fine, but if the record includes the project number, I really encourage that.
Yeah, I would suggest individual trustees can't change the way that the finance department.
No, that's not what I'm saying, Brian.
That's what I'm saying, the whole board would have to approve that change, or how they do their descriptions, it's the same way they've done it for 20 years.
No, what I'm saying is, because I looked at the invoices, the data is already there. I'm not suggesting that you change, but when you do the invoices and go through them, you see that the data is there. That's all I'm saying. I'm not suggesting that you change, just be sure that it's used as a unique identifier, that's all.
I still think the entire board would have to make that suggestion and approve it. To give instructions to individual departments, it has to come from the entire board, not one trustee can.
That's fine, if that's what we have to do, I think would help us keep our budget items more clean.
If I can just weigh in, that the project number is not as useful to us as the project description or the budget code that is charged off to. So the account code is tied to the project itself.
Okay.
And that is more descriptive and helpful to staff in managing these contracts than a project number, which is really useful for the engineering company who's managing their workload.
And another thing too, trustee staff, one of the things that we do, so it's a process thing, is sometimes the accounts payable or department secretary may enter the first round of maybe one of these invoices from actual women, and it would then go to a department director who's reviewing that to make sure that's going correct. GL code, then it would get approved by either the biller's manager or myself as part of the process.
Okay.
Which checks throughout the process to make sure that it's going to the right channel.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
The next question I have is related to page 5 of 23. I'm just curious about, could you give a little bit of explanation about how we paid over $300 for lunch for Oktoberfest for staff?
That was accounting for all of the staff who worked that particular event, and that does not include administrative staff like myself or Jonathan or even any of our directors. But our public works employees, our police officers who were assigned to work the event, whether that's lunch or dinner, we traditionally cover that.
Okay, that's great because I hadn't seen that before. On page 11 of 23, I'm wondering if Gallagher has already been paid the $330,723.
That's pending approval this evening.
Okay, that's fine. On 14 of 23, I have a question about strain, but I'll wait until we get to that consent. I wanted to ask about page 15 of 23. Matthew O'Shea Consulting. Will it be coming up soon that we'll get an update from Matthew O'Shea?
During the legislative season, he does provide updates to both the mayor and myself. Those are more with respect to what's happening in the state legislative session. The updates for the work that he does with respect to our projects are provided to the board through manager's reports as there's progress being made on. For example, the most recent award that the village received was for the Dartmouth Bridge Section 319 grant, and as soon as we hear good news on that, we pass that along.
Okay, so it's a case of we get the good news, but not an ongoing. On page 16 of 23, I was curious about the particular services that GISC provides, but I'll just defer that because I think Trustee Bradley Scott pulled that one off. Trustee Bradley Scott, did you pull that one off the consent agenda? Yes, okay, so I'll just defer. I'm curious about page 17 of 23. Could you talk about who Robert Neville is and why is he updating the village map?
And I questioned this one myself. This is with respect to a wall map in the police department and active G. Taylor can address that.
Yes, this is part of our budget records room model we had oversight with app that was, and he has updated, it was out of date to show the addresses, so it's kind of part of our redo.
When was the last date that was done?
That one I don't know offhand, but I can get that information.
10 years, 20 years, 30 years?
It's been a long time.
It really needed updating. Okay, thank you. I'm curious about page 21 of 23. Correct me if my memory is wrong, do we normally have an audit presentation before we talk about the levy?
Traditionally, we do, and we inform the board that the audit was extended. You'll actually hear that presentation at the December 16th meeting. But that is irrespective of the adoption of the levy.
Okay, so in the context of, so we filed for an extension, is that what you're saying?
Correct. And we're on time to meet the extended deadline.
I wanted to ask about Smith Dawson advocacy. Would there be an update from Smith Dawson about the work that they're doing?
It works similar to Matthew O'Shea Consulting. And in fact, I think from our most recent status call, it was an update in the manager's report on some information you can provide us.
That's all I have on that item number 2. presentation of those.
All right, are there any other comments or questions from the board on the approval of bills?
Yes, just a question to go into a little bit further detail as it pertains to the audit progress. Since we did request an extension, does this modify the amounts that they get paid, or is this irrespective of the audit that is coming before the board?
No, it does not affect the contract. Just a little to add to that. So the reason that the final field work, so we needed an extension, but the reason that the final field work was so late is solely because of the auditor's schedule. They couldn't fit us in anywhere, so final field work wrapped up in the beginning of October. We are in the process of reviewing the report, and they will be here at the December 16th meeting to present. The extension extended it to December 28th for filing.
Thank you. If there are no other comments or questions, Clerk O'Gara, would you please call the roll?
How often is the RFQ process redone? How often do you use that?
In my time here, I think we've done it definitely two times, maybe three times. So it depends on whether there's a project that requires it based on federal funding. And sometimes there's an interest to, as we talked about earlier, just widen the scope of contractors who we're working with. But my recollection is 2 or 3 times in the time that I've been here.
Thank you. Clerk O'Gara, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Daggett.
Yes.
Trustee Driscoll.
Yes.
Trustee Lofton.
Yes.
Trustee Mitros.
Yes.
Trustee Mustafa.
Yes.
Trustee Bradley Scott.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution of the Village of Flossmoor, Cook County, Illinois, approving a change order relating to the 2024 MFT street resurfacing project?
So moved. Second.
Thank you so much. I will let Trustee Mustafa start us off with this meeting.
I'm thinking this might be just a quick question. In our packet on page 46, it's the second page of the resolution related to the MFP street resurfacing. And at the top of the page, just for clarification, it says, the village hereby finds and declares that the change order, which results in the price increase of $55,114.58 is required due to the additional work performed by Gallagher Asphalt Corporation as directed by the Village Board of Trustees. And perhaps I'm reading it incorrectly, but I read in the letter that it's the staff that directed the additional work, not the board.
I'll start. Attorney obviously might want to make some additional comments, but I read the resolution as ratifying that approval, and so therefore with the resolution you are authorizing the work that was completed in ratification.
So is it the way the sentence is structured that I'm thinking it's the staff that approved the work and not the board? Help me here.
I'm not sure when the decisions were made, as I read the.
Well, if we go back to page 44, I'm not talking about timing, not at all, not talking about timing. I'm talking about the letter says that the staff directed the contractor to complete the additional sidewalk. It doesn't even matter when. I'm just asking if the resolution is assigning responsibility to the wrong party.
The resolution is specifically providing the authority for the change order to be from the Board of Trustees.
Okay, thank you, that clarifies it.
Are there any other comments from the board on this item? Seeing none, Clerk O'Gara, would you please call the roll on consent agenda item number 3?
Trustee Driscoll.
Yes.
Trustee Lofton.
Yes.
Trustee Mitros.
Yes.
Trustee Mustafa.
Yes.
Trustee Bradley Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Daggett.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution of the Village of Flossmoor, Cook County, Illinois, approving change orders relating to Brumley Drive reconstruction project. So moved.
Second.
Thank you so much. I'll let trustee Mustafa start us off with this one too.
Again, it's a difference between the letter on page 50 and the line item in the change order on pages 54 and 55. There's a mention of a sprinkler repair in the line item. On page 55, item number 2GG. WCD number 5, sprinkler repair at 645 Perth Avenue of $4,817. So that's just a portion of the $35,656 change. But I don't see any specific mention of the sprinkler. In fact, the changes are summarized as tree removal, sidewalk, but no specific mention of the sprinkler repair. Can further explanation be provided about, oh, there's Dan, hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. Yeah, well, in the memo, we just sort of summarized the primary causes, which is listed there as some of the infrastructure deficiencies that we identified as poor section of water main, poor pavement subbase. There are other additions to that change order, some of which you mentioned here. There was a sprinkler repair that was identified that was struck. There was additional ground repairs that were done. Some sidewalk quantities were added as well. But the primary is what we sort of stuck to with the memo. But we do have sort of a breakdown that we provided that has those additional items mentioned.
Okay, so help me with the math thing.
Okay.
Because I see there are some negative numbers and some positive numbers in this list.
Sure thing.
And the 4,817 is a positive number. Does that mean that we pay for that?
This evening,
For the sprinkler.
That was something that was not included in the original contract, so the change order is now adding that item. Some of the things that the detox sprinklers that were included in the contract did not have to be done.
And that's exactly what I understood. But who broke the sprinkler?
The contractor hit the sprinkler.
So
it wasn't identified in our plans. We didn't know it was there, so
they broke it, but we paid for it.
we should have identified it.
Okay, that clarifies it. So because we didn't identify it, we're responsible for them breaking it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, Clerk Legalvin, would you please call the roll on consent agenda item number 4?
Trustee Lofton.
Yes.
Trustee Mitros.
Yes.
Trustee Mustafa.
Yes.
Trustee Bradley Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Dackett.
Yes.
Trustee Driscoll.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution of the Village of Flossmoor, Cook County, Illinois, approving the annual GIS Consortium Provider Contract?
So moved.
Thank you so much. Trustee Bradley Scott, this was your item, so if you'd like to start us off.
Okay, so my question for the GIS system is on let's see. On page 87 for our data management aspect, I wanted to just catch up to where primary layers list, I read that as our initial, one set of options that will be opened up and programmed. Am I looking at that correctly?
Yes, that is correct.
And so when I went to the software in terms of the user aspect, I know it's going to be different than what is used in-house. There were only 3 components that were live from the user standpoint. Are all of these items functioning that are on this primary layer list?
Some of these layers are only functioning in-house compared to external. So some of them, like sewer utilities, different variances. We don't have trees in there as of right now. Our tree report's still being put in as the that's still outstanding. That's something they're working on currently. But like school districts, emergency response boundaries are in there. So a lot of this is in there, but there's a couple of these things that are only on the.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to, knowing that, I wanted to make sure that as, we've been planning this for a little while and it's a sizable investment, that we are on task to receive what we thought we were contracted to receive.
Yeah, we're ahead of a couple of schedules here. So that PACER information that we talked about before, and that was referenced from earlier in this meeting, is in there on the internal side of it. So some of that has been ahead of schedule. One of the things we're working on right now is how do we get the images from the water main lines or the lead line service line project in the GIS. So we're working right now on that data, so all that can be imported. So our workers who are out there for when we start the lead line service project will have access to that and be able to adjust it in real time. So that project is right now happening. 2 other projects that I can speak of real quickly is one that should be going live soon is capital projects from the village that we already have a draft of, and then that'll be on the village side or the resident side to be able to see those, as well as available properties when it comes to village-owned properties, and we'll work on our any kind of retail that's opening as well too. So we're looking at those 2 in the year. So right now, I'll speak on my behalf, and John Crump, he does a lot of the public works project with us. We work as a team on this. But we've been very happy with the amount of work that's been done in this first year of implementation, and we're excited to keep on using this tool and deploying it.
Fantastic. I just wanted an update so that we knew exactly kind of how we were progressing, and you see these other aspects becoming live in the new year, so that's fantastic. I don't think I heard about the retail aspect of it, so that's exciting news.
Yeah, and what we'll try to do too, and we'll look to the trustees here and managers report for something along those lines. We did a presentation this summer on some of the projects we were doing, maybe some examples of it in real time with GP representative. If that's something that the board would like annually, that would be more than I'd be more than willing to leave that with GP about that too. I thought that was useful to see some of the data and how it's being used.
That makes a lot of sense.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, clerk will gavel, will you please call the roll on consent agenda item number 8?
Trustee Ventros.
Yes.
Trustee Musaka.
Yes.
Trustee Bradley Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Daggett.
Yes.
Trustee Driscoll.
Yes.
Trustee Lockton.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution of the Village of Flossmoor, Cook County, Illinois, approving salary schedules for fiscal year 2024-2025?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you so much. Trustee Mustafa, this was your item. If you'd like to start us out.
First, let me start with a thank you to Village Manager Wattel for your prompt response. I'm addressing questions regarding the consideration of a resolution of the Village of Flossmoor, Cook County, Illinois, approving salary schedules for fiscal year 2024 to 2025. So I'm asking that you correct me if any of my comments are not in line with what is true. So it's my understanding that in May, these salary schedules were presented to the board in May. That's my understanding.
They're actually approved by the board
Approved by the
at the
board.
second meeting in April as part of the budget.
Right. And The 3.25% is cost CPI?
It is the across-the-board wage increase that the board approved for all of the positions at that time.
And is the 3.25% CPI at the time, or cost of living?
I cannot recall that. I do recall that it is consistent with the increase that was provided to the union for the same.
Okay. So my questions are concerning categorizing it as addressing below market compensation. The reason I bring that up is because it's my understanding that we have not evaluated every position for whether it is at market.
Correct.
Okay. So to categorize the 3.25% as below market seems inaccurate to me.
Yeah, this approval tonight is with respect to a specific position that the board has discussed and weighed in on, and this is really a housekeeping item following that board's discussion.
I understand, but the letter we received from you says updated salary schedules to address below market compensation, so it's the whole schedule.
It is with respect to that particular position.
So all of the positions, village manager, assistant manager, et cetera, going down the line, have not been increased by 3.25%.
Not at this time, they were as of May 1, 2024.
Can that be reversed?
Seems to be a legal question at that.
Hypothetically, can it be?
Hypothetically, the board could reduce employees' compensation.
Okay. I am not suggesting that we do that, I'm asking it hypothetically, because we're facing an operating deficit. So I'm just asking hypothetically to know what our options are. If we would do an evaluation for market, we may find that some salaries are not only at market but above. We may find that some salaries are farther below market than 3.25%. If we evaluated every position, we may still be able to reach 3.25% mean or average by raising some, lowering others. And I'm wondering if that shouldn't be considered to be sure that we're fiscally responsible considering our operating deficit.
So I can weigh in on that. We have traditionally internally taken a look at salary comparability across communities about every 2 years. Given the village's financial position, we have not made huge changes in those salaries over time. But I would say that if the board wanted to invest in a compensation analysis by an independent party, it has been my experience and experience of my colleagues that usually when you're at that point, you're not finding that you are overpaying your employees, you're finding you have a significant issue that needs to be addressed. And we know that in at least one department, and we're trying to address a few of those now, that we do have some market comparability.
We have some compression.
And some compression, that's a secondary issue, for sure, because there's not much gap between employees and their supervisors with respect to a few of our departments. So if that is something that the board would like for us to bring forward as part of the budget process, we certainly can do that. But we are prepared to at least take a look at what we have traditionally used as market comparability. I think you could also make some argument that depending on the level of the organization, that those comparable communities could probably be reevaluated. And depending on the position within the organization, your geographic boundaries are probably greater than what we traditionally surveyed.
I do understand, and I have witnessed this personally, everybody works extremely hard. So this is not, I'm not bringing this up with any judgment or evaluation of related to merit. It has nothing to do with that. But we're facing in the village a time where we need to look critically and make some hard decisions. Maybe we can't have Boston lettuce every time we eat a salad. Maybe it's a time to start looking at some hard options. So I'm bringing this up because it's very possible, since salaries are one of the biggest expenses in any organization, village, company, that we start looking hard at whether we can keep doing business as usual, even though it will be a hard decision, that we shouldn't close the door on it. Maybe we won't pursue it very much, but I'd like to keep the conversation open so that Flossmoor can continue delivering the services and quality of life that people enjoy and are used to. So,
Can I comment?
what, you didn't
Oh,
say.
I'm sorry, I thought you sounded.
I'm just taking a breath.
Oh, okay. The breath.
Okay. So the one more thing, I'll be brief, because I know sometimes you can talk too much. Okay? And back to my question I had to you about the resolution itself. Could we ask our attorney to comment? Okay. In the resolution, I was emailing our village manager earlier today that it states, and it's on page 99, attorney. Now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and board of trustees of the village of Flossmoor as follows, that the salaries for full-time employees revised November 4th as set forth on Exhibit A attached here to is hereby approved. And I'm asking, why does it say salaries instead of salary ranges? Because we are not approving anyone's individual salary.
You are, by this, only changing one position's numbers. Everything in here except for that one position was approved in April for the current fiscal year. So the only change is for that one position we discussed in closed session last week.
I accept that as true, no question about that. But the wording of the resolution does not address that, and the wording of the resolution says salaries for full-time employees, plural. It does not reflect the explanation we've given.
But the exhibit has multiple positions, it has all the salaries and all the positions.
No, it doesn't have salaries, it has ranges.
Which is, my understanding, that's how you have done it in the past, and this is just updating it based on last month's discussion.
I don't want to do it like we did if it's not right.
I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm saying that this is fine.
So you think it should say salaries even though we're not talking about salaries, we're talking about ranges? No. I know we are. That's the truth behind the words, but the resolution doesn't say that.
Problem with salaries and then seeing the range. We're talking about one person, and it's true that salaries are, what is it, 96% of our budget?
Approximately 90%.
90%? Okay.
I agree with you, but I'm not talking about that. I'm saying, yes, it's true, and I accept that we talked about it in private executive session, so I'm not disputing the truth. I'm saying the resolution itself does not say one salary. It doesn't say what we talked about in the executive session.
No, but you have to go back to the last version of this exhibit, and you'll be able to see what the change was done. It could have been done by just making a change to the one position range. It's the salary range you're approving.
Oh, you agree with me, because I said it should be salary range, not just salary.
It's just semantics.
Whether I'm not agreeing with you or disagreeing, okay?
That's what I was asking you what it should be, and you just said salary ranges.
You have approved in the past as a village board salary ranges. This changes one of them. So those are the salaries that are approved for all of your employees. They have to fall within those
No,
rules.
no, I agree with what you're saying, but I'm
So
looking
I
at
don't-
the wording under section 1, it says that the salaries for full-time, I'm agreeing with
I think
you.
he's
But
saying
that's how
that
the
they
wording
are
is,
entitled.
that's how the wording is done. I don't understand
I
the
don't,
issue.
if you want to change language, I don't care.
But,
I'm speaking to the attorney, thank you, trustee Day.
Well, this is the trustees. That's fine.
So is that the only question with that?
I don't like approving something that I have to remember what was done in the past, it's not on this piece of paper. So if I'm approving this, and I understand the truth that it's based on, I want what I approve to be as written, not something that's true but not here.
So
Because-
can I ask a question? So I have the, budget from our last meeting, and the salaries are a bit different on that versus what we have in front of us. However, I don't know that this is the most recent review after the 3.5, 3.25%. So maybe speaking to that would help put this in line in terms of what we received previously as part of our board packet and budget versus what is reflected on the May 1st, 2024.
The only other change in this schedule, which was approved on October 7th, is the creation of a full-time property maintenance inspector. None of the other salary ranges have been touched since May 1.
So our balance booklet,
And the addition of Director of Police Services.
the Village of Flossmoor annual operating budget fiscal year 24-25. What date would this be?
It's going to be what's in your published budget.
So it says May 1st, 2024. And so I am just gonna assume that I'm reading your mind, trustee Saka, but what is reflected in this bond packet and what we see on this list is different than,
What do you see that is different?
so the list that I have,
One that's in the booklet is revised May 9th, 2024.
May 9th,
When you look at the date at the top of the document, that's how we track any changes. So the May 1, the approval of the 3.25% that was awarded in April, those numbers were applied on May 9th.
so then do we have the most up-to-date copy because my budget says May 1st?
Can I see your version, please?
I'm gonna give you. So this is the same version.
I'd like to see yours, trustee Burns, up first. You and I are working off the same version. If you would like another bound copy of the budget, I'm sure it's easy to find.
So is the version that we see on our packet tonight, this is with the increase of 3.25%?
No, again, the 3.25% was applied for May 1, 2024 as the across the board increase for fiscal year 25. What's included is just a reprint of this sheet in its entirety, along with the one change that the board approved in concept at the last board meeting.
The other changes that you would see different would be other positions added, like the director of police services and the full-time property maintenance. And we're looking at the same thing back here too. So those positions would be the additionals from that May 1st, which is the revised May 9th, 2024 budget.
And I understand that these are, pulled together from the different departments, so let me just. So our budget is the projection of whatever is in between the budgeted amount is the actual for 2024, 2025. We have a range here on the schedule this evening, whereas the packet that we have are our actuals. Your question.
The packet we have still ranges. And that is my issue. That is my issue. So I say in conclusion, page 101 says Village of Flossmoor full-time position salary ranges. It lists a column of entry-level salary and a column of maximum salary. So for any position, you have no idea what the salary is for that position. You only know they can come in at an entry level and they can make as much as the maximum. There is no salary list. There's only a range. The resolution that we are to vote on says that the salaries for full-time employees as set forth on Exhibit A. Exhibit A does not have any salaries. I cannot approve a resolution that talks about a particular salary for an individual where the exhibit only has ranges. That is in conflict. I cannot approve that.
We didn't add the word in a motion that it'd be in section 1. The salary ranges for full-time employees. It doesn't matter one way or the other from my perspective.
Thank you for suggesting that, because that's the edit that I put on my resolution.
I also wanted to say in disclosure that unlike many municipalities, our salary sections within each department fund, within each fund and department, detail all of the salaries that are paid to every position. And if that position is just one employee, you're going to be able to see that within our budget of what that employee is paid. If that position, such as, I'll say, police officers, is several employees, you're going to see a sum of what those employees are paid. We are also compliant with statute to post our total compensation report on our village website with the adoption of every budget. And so all of that information as far as what employees are paid is fully disclosed to the public.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I don't know if that was your question, it was disclosed to the public.
No, it's not my question at all.
Yeah, okay, so in terms of what we see in this report this evening is a range versus what we see in this packet with the budget, it is the actual salary for positions.
But you have the range in the budget too.
So can I make the motion suggested by our attorney?
We have some question on
We already have a motion on the table.
So, question in my mind.
And we have to get on, we have a levy to discuss as well.
I'll talk to you first.
So the motion on the table is to approve the salary schedule for fiscal year 2024-2025. There was a first, there was a second. Clerk Logallo, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Mustafa? No. Trustee Bradley Scott?
No.
Trustee Daggett?
No.
Trustee Driscoll?
Yes.
Trustee Lofton?
No.
Trustee Mitros?
Yes.
Motion fails.
anybody like to make a second motion on the item?
I move for the change of wording in the resolution on page 99 of the packet, section 1. Wait, let me finish the wording. Thank you, Trustee Day. The revised wording, I am asking for is that the salary ranges for full-time employees revised November 4th, 2024, as set forth on Exhibit A, attached here 2, is hereby approved.
So changing salaries to salary ranges. Is there a first?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you so much. Any discussion? Clerk Legal, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Ren Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Dackett.
Yes.
Trustee Driscoll. Trustee Lofton.
Yes.
Trustee Mitros.
Yes.
Trustee Musafa.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. Next up is an action item. Can I get a motion to approve the contract award for the fiscal year 2025 sidewalk replacement program?
So moved.
Thank you, and I have Assistant Public Works Director, Dan Milovanovic here.
I second.
Good evening, Board. Included in the FY25 budget is $100,000 for the sidewalk replacement project. This year, we are looking to continue the work we began on Flossmoor Road last year with sidewalk replacement starting near the Village Hall complex and heading east, ending at Flossmoor Road and Grassy Avenue. This is the second time this project has been bid. The village did not receive favorable prices the first time out, which led to staff and board agreeing that bids be rejected and the project rebid. The project was rebid on November 6th. We received 5 sets of bids. The lowest responsible bidder is M&J Underground. Most recently, M&J Underground was awarded the FY24 sidewalk project, so we do have experience with them. Their work is always good, and we work with them well. Their unit prices for sidewalk replacement are $13 per square foot, which is a much better figure than we received in September, which was $19.55 per square foot. Because of the better unit prices, we would like to increase the quantities and utilize the budgeted amount. With that in mind, Public Works recommends that the Mayor and Village Board award the FY25 sidewalk replacement program to M&J Underground in the amount of $65,646.50, with approval to extend the contract unit prices to complete additional work up to the budgeted amount of $100,000.
Thank you so much. I'll start off with questions. Trustee Lofton.
So will the addition go to the budget? Has that work been decided yet? Or is this contingency? In other words, we're going to approve the bid on most of it.
Correct.
Bid is $65,000.
Correct.
That's
Yeah.
the bid. We have $100,000 budget.
So the quantities that are in the contract, for the total of $65,000 is what was addressed here earlier in the memo. The amount going from Village Hall to Grassy Avenue. The additional quantities have been measured because they were in the first bid. So what we did from first bid to second bid is lower the quantities in anticipation of potentially unfavorable prices. Just to be safe, just to be conservative with our budgeting. And now that we've received good prices, we are asking to be able to extend further to up to the budget amount. So, yeah.
Thank you. Trustee Mitros.
And it's, good job delaying it because the price really went down. I don't know the concrete strap, but maybe just, the guys who want to get their guys working. And $325 a square is expensive. I remember we used to pay $1.50.
Yeah. Not that long ago.
Yeah, that's a good job.
Trustee Mustafa.
I want to echo Trustee Mitros' compliments. Good job, good decision. Do you have any estimate of how much more you can do? Will you get close to what you wanted to do initially? How many more sites?
Yeah, actually, original estimate was based off of a unit price of $13.50 per square foot, which was what we used to quantify. So we'll definitely be able to get everything that we had planned in the original bid in September.
Excellent, and we'll have the same company just continue working to get close to 100,000, right?
Correct.
That's good, good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Brenda Scott.
Thanks for coming back so quickly. I don't know that we were excited to see you again this year on this. So does that mean that they're getting started earlier, or this is in spring 2025?
What we did in the bid is, other than adjust the quantities, we also changed the completion date, which was originally for late fall. It's now spring, or date to be decided, but generally speaking, we're likely to have that fixed by April 30th, so this fiscal year.
Okay, that's fantastic. Just some notes that I received from residents when we were doing the sidewalk work at the beginning of last school year is the thoroughfare to the schools. And so I imagine to get things done sooner than later is a good thing, especially when summertime prices may create a surge. Can we make sure that we have the appropriate communication and safety measures in place so that our children and walkers and everybody are safe, especially in this no snow winter we're going to have, right?
Fingers crossed. We'll see.
So, you know, that was something that the residents really stressed in terms of making sure that, you know, if we're gonna do projects during the school year, that we are mindful of our walkers to and from.
Yes, absolutely. But I think we will, like last year, make sure that we get out residential letters in advance of the work so that everybody in that area along the project will be aware of the timeline and such. And we obviously also have our email groups that we'll keep track of. So we'll make sure to do a lot of communication with this one, considering its location.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, trustee Day.
Yeah, just thank you for the guidance on this one, because when you guys came back and said we should not do it, glad we listened, because now we're getting what we wanted in the first place. So good job on that. And part of that, I think you guys even said that if we can get these bids out toward the fall, they're trying to fit their schedule for next year as opposed to already being. So that seems like that worked in our favor too. So good work. I appreciate it.
Thank you, trustee Driscoll.
No, thanks, Dan. I echo all of Gary's comments, and great job.
Thanks. All right, clerk Gavin, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Daggett.
Yes.
Trustee Driscoll.
Yes.
Trustee Lofton.
Yes.
Trustee Mitros.
Yes.
Trustee Mustafa.
Yes.
Trustee Bradley Scott.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. And now, one of our favorite presentations of the year, I will welcome our finance director, Ann DeVoa, to discuss the 2024 tax levy. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Village Board. It is that time of year again to discuss the 2024 tax levy estimate. Before getting into the weeds of the options I presented in your board packet, I'm going to give a brief presentation of the EAV, since the tax levy estimate is based off the 2023 extended levy, and the 2023 was a reassessment year. In my report in the board packet, I included a summary of key components of the Cook County property tax assessment systems and prior tax year EAV detail for your information. All counties are required to conduct a reassessment process at least every 4 years by state statutes to help assure fair and accurate valuation of property and use for property tax purposes. The Cook County triennial assessment cycle occurred in the 2023 tax year. The 2023 reassessment resulted in a 37% increase in the Village of Flossmoor's EAV. This translates to roughly $83 million increase. This is the largest increase in village history, and only the third time the EAV has been over $300 million, the last time being 2010. It is important to note that unlike many other taxing bodies,
the village does not take advantage of the anticipated increases in the EAV due to reassessment in determining the tax levy request. You'll see on this slide that's presented 5 years worth of Flossmoor EAV data. The bold numbers are reassessment years. When looking at the EAV history on page 129 of your packet, we can predict that EAV will most likely decrease for the 2024 levy, as it typically does after a reassessment year. So this next slide shows the inverse relationship between the EAV and the tax rate. The 2023 tax rate of 2.436 indicates how much of our levy dollars take up the entirety of the tax space. So in terms of $4.7 billion levy last year, 2.4% of the $306 million of EAV. I wanted to include this table in my presentation to reiterate that just because the EAV Flossmoor increased exponentially, this does not directly correlate with the village receiving more revenue. So the 37% increase in Flossmoor, what does that mean? So why did the EAV go up so much? The residential took the most impact of the 2023 reassessment. On the slides, the board was presented this information in the manager's report back in July. So 78% of residential tax bills increased, median bill increasing 21%, 21% with commercial tax bills increased, with the median commercial tax bill decreasing 8.52%. Total residential assessed value increased 37%, which is in correlation with our EAV increase. And then the 9.46% decrease in the commercial assessed value. Our EAV also went up because the elimination of the 2022 COVID factor. So I think it's fair to say that we're probably going to see a decrease in EAV when it comes to this levy that I'm presenting options on today. The next point, large EAV has inverse relationship, which I just talked about. And then according to historical data, we can predict that it will go down next year. All right, so time to go over the 3 options. So when looking through the summaries and the data that I provided you, you will notice it looks different than what you've been presented in the past. I want to ensure that while the data looks different, I ultimately took a different approach to come up with the same conclusions that my predecessor has presented you in the past. I presented 3 options, and you will see on the screen right now a summary of those 3 options, ranging from a 0% increase for the village to a 4.4% increase. Every option has a slide that portrays the impact on homeowners in relation to what we passed here tonight and the correlation with the movement of the EAV. All options include the library levy that was passed by the library board on November 12th. The library board passed a levy with a 4.5% increase and included new property growth, which ultimately increased the levy by 4.94%. So in here you'll see the village, the change that I am going to present for all 3 options, and then it includes the library, what they passed for all 3 options, and then the total. So option 1. This option mirrors the 2023 extended levy. This option does not take into consideration inflation or pension increases for our actuaries. One thing to note is that the village selects this option, the county does automatically add a loss and cost factor to each levy item, as they would for the other 2 options. The default standard rate are 3% of all levy items except debt service at 5%. This is done to compensate for post-issuance tax bill adjustments, changes to the amount owed after tax rates have been determined, and unpaid taxes. The loss and cost factor is intended to assist in seeing that taxing bodies receive close to the full amount of their levy. Therefore, even though we would submit a levy that mirrors the prior year, ultimately the levy would increase for the loss and cost factor. So you'll see here 0% increase for the village, 4.9 for the library, which increase in support.
Sure, yeah, jump in.
I wanted to go back to the part where you mentioned about the unpaid taxes. And where is that captured in the chart that we have? Where is it captured?
So the Excels that you see in your packet are all formulas. So it takes into consideration the 3% loss in cost. So that's how it is, 3%. Yes, that the county establishes when they issue the levy, correct?
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Can you talk about the $72,042? Explain that again.
I'm sorry.
The change.
That's the library.
Oh.
Yes, from that, yeah.
So the $72,042, that is the difference between prior year's extension for the library and what they're asking for this year. So that includes 4.5% increase, and then a new growth estimate that I provided them of about $6,000.
And that's why it's the same in all three options?
Yep.
All right.
Because that's what they asked.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so this option one impact to homeowners, you'll see this on, after every option that I present. Just to go over what we're looking at, so the top row, you'll see housing values of 250K up through 550K. And then on the left-hand column, you'll see an estimate of EAV. So I bolded the center of it, which is, okay, if the EAV stays $306 million, and we pick option one, this is what the increase to residents' bills would look like from the village. So if the EAV goes down $5 million, the change goes up, and if the EAV goes up $5 million, the change goes down with that inverse relationship between EAV and tax rate.
If I may just add, and prepared, as rightfully so, prepared the levy, using the 2023 EAV. It will be extended this summer against the 2024 EAV. So what she's trying to do through this chart, which is something new that she's brought to us, is trying to not predict, but show if there is a movement in that EAV at the time of extension, what the impact to the homeowner would be.
So the first column, and then in bold, it's 1,970, that's the amount of additional taxes?
Yes, that's the change in the taxes that, the amount, so that 1905 up top, where it says current tax, that is what homeowners are seeing now, and then relative to what we passed, and the movement of the EAV, that's the change that they'll. Yep.
That's the village portion of their tax bill.
Correct. Alright. Okay, so option two. Option two only takes into consideration increasing the levy for the police and fire pension, which is a 1.9% increase. This option does provide full funding for both the police and fire pension increases. The recommended levy amounts per the contracted actuaries for both the police and fire pension are based off assumptions that are appropriate. The police pension recommendation is $1,479,035, a $99,812 increase from prior year. This is largely related to liability, loss due to new disability retirements, no deaths, and impact of the latest FOP contract. The fire pension recommendation is $535,643, a $39,961 increase from prior year. This is largely related to larger pay increases that were not expected and no deaths. So if we take this 1.9% increase, then 4.9 it would be a total of 2.4% increase across the board. Up on the slide, this is the impact to homeowners, the same as option one. You'll just see that the numbers are different because it takes into consideration the extended levy within those. All right, option three. Option three is aligned with past village tax levy strategy to maximize the levy. The option takes the prior year extended levy, multiplies it by the lesser of 5% or the CPI rate at December 31st of the prior year, and adds in an estimate for new property growth. We're using the inflation rate at December 31st, 2023, which was 3.4%, and we are estimating new property growth at $75,000. The $75,000 should capture the last year of the Oasis Refuge and Rainbow Cone. This approach gets us to a 4.4% increase on the village side.
Yeah. So, in the notes here, it mentions about if we didn't capture the amounts for those two businesses, the impact and the impact if we do consider it. Can you just go over those details again?
So,
you know what part I'm speaking of?
yes,
Okay.
the under new property development.
Yes.
So what happens with this, with considering the new property growth, it gives us a little extra percentage to increase our levy when we do an estimate. What would happen if we didn't consider this new property is we would only be able to levy the 3.4%. So because we're considering the new property growth, we get to extend it by 4.4%.
And if they don't make their income, or if they are not as successful as we planned, then their portion of the taxes would not be captured.
So this is taking assessed value of the property, not so much like the business itself. So we actually know for a fact that we are gonna get $66,000 of assessed value from Rainbow Cone this year. It's something we could look up on the Cook County Assessor's Office. So, we just inflated that number a little bit to capture the last portion of Oasis revenue.
So the under budget for property revenues is really not a concern.
Correct. Okay, so option three, impact to homeowners, you'll see here. And obviously if we're asking for a larger levy, the numbers do go up. But minuscule compared to the other two options, since we are a small tax amount. Okay, so, my recommendation would be to go with option three. The option results in a 4.5% increase. This is in line with the village's tax strategy to maximize the tax levy. This option three, we're capturing new property growth and it's covering the pension increases. Property tax revenue is typically an average of about 40% of our operating revenues in the village budget. Maximizing the tax levy would only make sense so we can continue that trend. And option three, you'll find on page 125 in the packet that it broke down option three by levy category. The line item amounts are based off estimates and assumptions of which I've listed on the slide shown here. The large EAD increase forced cap ceiling lines, corporate, fire protection, and police protection to be below the ceiling rates, which are a part of PTEL since we're a non-home rule community. The last time this occurred was the 2018 tax levy. If option three is agreed upon and by the board, I will be presenting the board a resolution acknowledging the PTEL, which directs the county to reduce the three capped general lines as practiced in the past.
If I can just add, this approach also is in line plans to do that with each new development over the course of 3 years. Once if that money is not, that levy is not realized, there's not an opportunity as an overall community to go back and capture that in future years. You'll also note as part of Anne's report that she also included the amount of unlevied costs that could be supported if we were a rural community, that our budget could support an additional levy to support our operations. So we always disclose that to the board to be able to show that the levy dollars are fully supporting our budget as far as they can.
Is there anything that we need to be mindful of? I'm not sure if this is a negotiation year or we're entering the negotiation year with FOP and different contracts.
FOP is their only union contract. The levy is part of our revenue sources to be able to support our operations, but there's no allowance for union negotiations as part of the tax levy calculation. And no, they're not going into union negotiations this year.
I recall 1 year that was something that was brought up in terms of capturing the levy to increase why we should go one way or another. So I don't know if that would play into it here, but I just wanted to ask that question to see if there was something that we should consider, even though it's down the road.
Pensions? Are you referencing pensions?
So when we were negotiating contracts, not this past year, but a few years ago, because we asked for a levy during that time, that was part of the negotiation. And so I'm just asking if that is going to be something that we need to be considerate of while we're looking at the levy now.
I can address that in final labor negotiations, and what the communities do with their tax levy is always something the employees and the unions look at. And whether you are dependent on your property tax levy for 90% of your budget or 15% of your budget makes a big difference. School districts, fire district, library districts, they are much more heavily dependent on property taxes than municipalities. So it's more of a factor in some of those non-municipal entities than it is here. Looking at your levy and your compensation in general. But the unions do look at it and say, wait a minute, you didn't even levy all you could. And an arbitrator will look at that and you do an interest arbitration with your police officers or your firefighters and say, hey, they didn't even try to get the money that they should have gotten and were underpaid. So those arguments are made.
We've been there before, that's why I'm
That's
asking.
probably, but you've already got the contract in play, it's not in the negotiations year. So, but it's always something we consider, yes.
I just had a question.
I'm sorry, any other questions?
That's it.
And then I'm gonna go around the table.
Oh, okay.
Is your presentation?
Yeah, I just have next steps up here, so, go ahead.
Trustee Day.
Thank you so much for the presentation, and I like the way you laid out the information. So it's not lost on me that we're talking about adding more tax burden, because I know that my tax bill went up way more than 21%, and I've heard that with a lot of my neighbors and people around. So it's not lost on me that we're talking about people's money and livelihood. So with that, I think it's worth having a discussion of what would the practical impact of going with option 2 as opposed to option 3? What would the practical impact be for the budget and for the village if we didn't grab all that we could to support the village? What would that do to our budget?
I think we're looking at about a $200,000 loss, if we go back to here, 139, and then versus the 328. And just a reminder, this is all an estimate, so this is just, we could be looking up to a $200,000 about the levy categories, there's stuff that are very predictable as an IMRF. We know that the rate of IMRF is going from 6.93 to 8.16. So there's things that like that, you know, we should really, you know, try to levy dollars for, as well as our debt payments and you know, things that are very predictable. I would encourage to.
So the risk of going with option 2, one of those risks could be an impact to services. Because we just don't have the money in the budget. Right. Thank you.
Trustee Driscoll.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation, Anna. Really pretty pointed. But Gary kind of nailed my question as well. We can slide back to, like, you know, option 2 to save the taxpayers a little bit. The 200,000 seems to be a big chunk to have to try to look around and cut. So, you know, given that, I would probably work for your option 3.
I'm sorry, Trustee Bradley, staff objection, were you in favor?
Given what you just said, I don't think that we can sustain the option 2. So option 3 seems like the best option on the table for us tonight.
Thank you. And Trustee Baggett, which option were you leaning towards?
The option where everybody's taxes go down, but that's not on the table. Yeah, I mean, I don't like it, but I feel like it's what we have to do in this situation. Just really keep on payment on economic development to try and make some impact on this next year.
2 new developments, like imminent in December.
Yeah, so I would say I don't like it, but I feel like the responsible thing to do for the village and for the services is to go with option 3.
Thank you. Trustee Lofton. Questions?
Just one question, and you came from another part of the how does it compare? And looking at the assessment process, how does that compare to other parts of Northern Illinois?
So you're saying Cook County versus other counties? I'm not very familiar with like DuPage and things like that. I don't know, Carl, you are. I know Will County is on a 4-year. And I think their approaches is a little different, but they're all kind of the same.
If you look at it, Cook County is the only county in the state that does a type of classification of property assessments that are different. And they come with the industrial higher, at the highest, commercial rents, and residential, primarily single family is the lowest assessed percentage. But you have equalization by the state, and then it takes their number times 3 and gets them up to what they're supposed to be instead of 30. And if you look at your income tax bill, you can't say multiply that EAD by a third and say, well, I'd love to sell my house for that. No, you do not. In DuPage County, they're much more dry. They usually have one equalization factor, so their assessors are viewed as doing work correctly. But what's happened in the last 2 or 3 years in Cook County with the reassessments has really changed so much. And in some areas, it's a great benefit because they transfer a lot of the costs to the loop area in the north. But how you get the 37% increase in EAD in this community, I don't know. But others are seeing that same thing.
Well, clearly, I agree. Government office coming with this option 3. We seem to be way off the village.
Thank you. Trustee Matthews.
The thing is, we've been doing this for so long, if we don't maximize that amount, then we've lost it forever going onward. And we just can't get behind because we don't have the resources now. But it makes me think about funding an extra police officer. That's 800 or 900,000 when we look at it to fund the shift. And these are the realities of what we're dealing with. But I'm absolutely in favor of 3, and it's unfortunate, but it's how the world is.
Thank you. Trustee Lusaka.
I know that trustee David said tongue in cheek that yes, we'd like our taxes to go down, so I take that seriously. Option 3 is what I support, even though any increase in taxes is really undesirable. I was looking at the difference with your charts. If you just look at the 0 line, $151 change in option 2 versus a $212 change. So perhaps in thinking about it, when we look at the change to the residents, it's not material.
Right.
Now, back to, we don't want any increase at all, but if we look at the difference, it's what, $60. So I'm looking at it like that too. It's a benefit to the village of $200,000, but on a $350,000 home, we're talking about $65. So that helps me make a decision. I wanted to ask if you could spend just a minute on the details at a glance page, 128. You've been very intentional, and I thank you for your presentation and for the additional information. You've listed the exemptions, so can you make it a little bit more clear how you chose to put that chart?
I thought this was interesting information. So I have some historical data of exemptions that, just find it. So what I thought was the most interesting was the 170% increase in senior freeze exemptions. So I have data going back to 2006. So I decided to include this because I think it's important for us to realize that, yes, our EAB was $306,000, but after we take into consideration all of those exemptions, they call it the raw EAB, it was really only $120 million. So those exemptions, so the loss and cost factor that I was talking about tries to capture some of those exemptions that are filed after the tax bills are generated. So I just thought it was some valuable information to get out to see in Flossmoor, these are the type of exemptions that are being filed.
So taxes are assessed, but because homeowners and senior freeze can reduce what they pay.
Correct.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Yep.
Thank you. The other comment I wanted to make, when we talk about economic development, we frequently talk about new restaurants or new businesses, but economic development includes the services, the ability to provide water, and electricity to the businesses, the ability to have streets that their vehicles can travel over. So if we look at the full range of what economic development entails, all of the work we're doing on our roads and all of the work that we're doing to try as hard as possible to improve the environment are also a part of economic development. So we can't shortchange how important it is for us to have that $200,000, because it's not just the sales tax, it's not just the property tax, it's being able to keep our streets and our services and our help our schools have those in place for businesses to want to come.
All right, thank you so much, everybody, for the great presentation. Please,
Just the next, next steps are we have a 20-day waiting period after this is discussed. On the December 16th meeting, you'll be seeing a lot of me. I will, depending on if it's on consent or not, but it will be a resolution telling the county which lines to apply the cap to if it comes to that, as well as the levy ordinance. Since we did not hit the 5%, we do not need to do a public hearing as we've had in the past 2 years. So,
we're just under it, right?
We do need to go into executive session tonight, so prior to going into executive session, I'm going to call for other business. I'll start with trustee Gonzalez.
All of my questions have been answered. I wanted to just thank those in the village who are planning the end of the year events. Ms. Wright is again on a roller coaster, I'm sure, but I'm sure the residents are looking forward to what's to come. So thank you.
Trustee Bradley Scott.
Actually, I wanted to just go back to Ann's presentation, and again, I know that we really didn't want to increase the levy at all, but saying that we have in the past gone to 5%, I do think that that is something to be noted for residents to say that we're being mindful of, the business that we're doing here, and the 4.5% is something that we need to do in order for our village services to be where they are. So just a thought as the information goes out about this meeting this evening, that we highlight that we really took a hard look at the numbers. I also wanted to just highlight here, I mentioned it in the Flossmoor Hills Highland meeting Thursday, that I attended the Southland Career Technical Education Center meeting in October, and that is comprised of our local superintendents, so Dr. Wakely from HF, Dr. Johnny Thomas from Rich Township, and a host of others, along with Prairie State College's president. They started a coalition to work with our trades so that we can prepare our students at the high school level and their families even for technical careers. So Dr. Thomas would like an opportunity to come talk to the board here so that we can be boots on the ground and talk with our legislators to raise funding for the initiative. It's over $100 million that they're looking to raise, and it really is going to be something innovative for our area. Apparently there has not been a career and technical opportunity in this region for over 40 years. So this is going to be something really exciting that our students at HF and the surrounding area of students can benefit from. So I forwarded that information so that we can get that on the books and we can hear more about what the opportunity looks like for our area.
Thank you. Yeah, I did sign off on the letter of support for them so they could start finding the funding. But really, the options that are at HF are just incredible. Machine shops, welding, mechanics, woodworking, CNC. I could talk, I really get into that stuff. But we have amazing facilities. We're very blessed here in the HF community to have those. Trustee Daggett.
Yeah, I just wanted to double back and reiterate my thanks to the Flossmoor Police Department, to Carl, Estelle, and to Deputy Chief Taylor. Carl, I know I've bugged you with quite a few emails in the last month or so, and you've been more than willing to answer the questions many times, so I appreciate that. And also to the village manager, Bridget, who walked out to make some time to answer some questions I had. So, you had your hands full with quite a few things going on in the village in the last month or so, and I appreciate your hard work, so thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Driscoll.
No questions or comments?
Thank you. Trustee Lupton.
No, I too would like to chime in. Trustee Daggett's compliment to the police department and Mr. Estelle, Chief Taylor, excellent job, particularly notifying folks driving cars. This is a season for that sort of thing that we should be mindful of. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Trustee Matthews.
I have nothing.
All right, Clerk Morgado.
Speaking of economic development for the village, I just wanted to add that I recently attended the new Wind Creek Chicago South End Casino that just opened up this week. And the reason I want to talk about it because Flossmoor is projected to receive approximately $80,000 in the revenue share for the area towns and villages. So I wanted to do my part of spending some money there. Actually, left with more money in my pocket from the poker room, but we still spent money on the store and the restaurants and some other things there. So it was a great experience. Highly recommend everyone check it out. I just wanted to add that the hotel is scheduled to open in January. I'm not sure if that's been publicized a lot, but I did inquire about it while I was there. You all know at least one Flossmoor resident that has a full-time job there, which, you know, benefits our community by putting more money in his pocket to spend in the community and his mom's pocket to spend money in the community, and hopefully we'll get more residents employed there as well. And I also wanted to add that I know that going to a casino can be intimidating for people who may not have gone to one before, so if anyone would like to reach out to me, to feel free. I know, 3 years ago when I started playing poker, it was very intimidating to me, but now, I have no problems with it at all. So just navigating that experience, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you, that's it.
Thank you. Village Attorney?
Ms. Orr will be here at the next meeting. Yep. That's why I said it. That I will be at the December 16th meeting.
I noticed the letter about Dawn being very, very instrumental in the high percentage of water meter completion. So I wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Thank you. Village Manager?
Happy birthday.
Along that same vein of public works, I want to thank Dan Milanovich, who's been holding down the fort, and for your quick response to that resident's concern about the overgrowth at 189th and Crawford Avenue. Thank you so much for doing that. This coming Sunday, September 24th at 7 p.m. is the 52nd annual Thanksgiving gathering. It's not just for Flossmoor, but it's also Homewood, incorporates Hazelcrest, also Olympia Fields, all the communities that parts of Chicago Heights that feed into Homewood-Flossmoor High School. The highlight is the HF Biking Choir. They will sing again as part of that gathering. So come on out, it's a really special evening of giving thanks. Let's see, exciting stuff in December. We are working to finalize legal documents for 2 new developments for the board to review. So come back for that action. And also meeting with 2 different developers for new projects, additional new projects here in the village this week. Other than that, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope it's a blessed time for you and your families, and thank you for sticking around for all of this. Can I get a motion to move to executive session to discuss the employment of a specific individual? So moved. Clerk Rodavo, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Riley Scott?
Yes.
Trustee Daggett?
Yes.
Trustee Driscoll? Trustee Lofton?
Yes.
Trustee Mitchell?
Yes.
Trustee Mustafa?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much. Have a great night. We will just adjourn directly when we come out of executive session. You're welcome to wait.